It was one of those nights that felt different from the very beginning, the kind of game where you could tell the atmosphere wasn't exactly what you'd expect at Dodger Stadium. The weather alone made it unusual, with light rain falling and players constantly trying to keep the field playable. You don't see that very often in Los Angeles, and it gave the whole game a strange rhythm. But even with the conditions being far from ideal, there was one player who didn't seem bothered by any of it. While others were adjusting their grip, wiping their hands, and taking extra time between pitches, he just kept going like it was a normal summer night. Watching him work on a mound was something special because even when it looked like he didn't have perfect control, the results were still unbelievable. There were moments where you could tell he was still trying to find the zone consistently, but the movement on his pitches was so sharp that hitters still had no chance. That's when you realize you're watching someone operating at a completely different level. Even when things aren't perfect, he's still dominating. That's a scary thought for the rest of the league, because if this is him still adjusting early in the season, imagine what he's going to look like once he's fully locked in. One of the most impressive parts of the performance wasn't just the strikeouts or the lack of hits, but the way he controlled the pace of the game. He worked quickly, attacked hitters, and never looked uncomfortable on the mound. That kind of presence changes the entire dynamic of a game because the defense stays alert, the opposing hitters start pressing, and suddenly the pressure is on the other team every single inning. It felt like the game was always under control, even when there were a couple of walks or deeper counts. There was never a moment where it felt like things were slipping away. And this is exactly what the team needed from its rotation. When your starting pitchers can go deep into games, everything else becomes easier. The bullpen doesn't get overworked, the relievers stay fresh, and the team can manage close games much more effectively. That's how winning teams are built over a long season. It's not just about scoring a lot of runs every night. It's about controlling games, saving arms, and putting your team in a position to win consistently. Performances like this do exactly that, and over the course of a season, they make a huge difference. What makes it even more exciting is that this didn't look like a peak performance. It looked like the beginning of something bigger. The velocity was there, the movement was there, the confidence was there, but the command could still improve. And when you think about that, it becomes almost unfair. If a pitcher can allow almost nothing while still working on his control and refining his pitches, what happens when everything is working perfectly? That's the question everyone is starting to ask, and honestly, it's a scary one for the rest of baseball. Early in the season, you never want to overreact to statistics, whether they're good or bad. Numbers don't really start to mean much until a bigger sample of games has been played. But what you can look at is the way someone performs, the way the ball comes out of the hand, the way hitters react, and the overall command of the game. And from that perspective, this performance was elite. The hitters didn't look comfortable, the contact was weak, and the strikeouts came at important moments. That's how you know it wasn't luck or just a good night. It was dominance. At the same time, the offense is still trying to find its rhythm. You can see flashes of power, you can see good at-bats here and there, but overall the lineup is still warming up. That's normal at the beginning of a season. Timing takes a little while to come back. Hitters are still adjusting to live pitching, and teams are still figuring out their approach. The important thing is that even without explosive offense, the team is still finding ways to win games. That's a very good sign because it shows they don't need everything to be perfect to come out on top. There are some encouraging moments at the plate, though, especially with a few players starting to drive the ball with more authority. When those hits start turning into extra base hits and home runs, the offense will look completely different. It's usually just a matter of timing and confidence. And once a couple of big hits start falling, the entire lineup can heat up quickly. Baseball seasons are long, and momentum can change very fast once hitters start feeling comfortable again. But even with all that, the main story right now continues to be what's happening on the mound. Every time he pitches, it feels like an event. Fans are watching closely, teammates are energized, and the opposing team knows they're going to have a very long night. That kind of presence is rare, and it changes the expectations for the entire season. Instead of just hoping to win games, now the team expects to win every time he takes the mound. That's the kind of impact a special player has on a franchise. And what makes it even more fascinating is the mentality behind all. This doesn't look like someone who is satisfied with being great. This looks like someone chasing something bigger, something historical. Every performance feels like another step toward a larger goal, and that's what makes this season feel so exciting. It's not just about wins and losses, it's about watching something special unfold over time, game by game, start by start. As the season keeps moving forward, one of the most interesting storylines isn't just what's happening at the major league level, but also what's happening in the farm system. The organization continues to develop talent at a pace that almost feels unfair compared to the rest of the league. Every year, new names start to appear, new players start putting up big numbers, and suddenly there's another prospect knocking on the door of the big leagues. It's like the pipeline never stops, and that's one of the biggest reasons why this team manages to stay competitive year after year. Right now, there's a lot of attention on one of the hottest hitters in the minor leagues, and for good reason. When a player starts a season with that kind of production, people start paying attention very quickly. Extra base hits, home runs, driving the ball to all fields, and doing it consistently in the first games of the season is exactly how a prospect forces an organization to notice. And the most impressive part is not just the numbers themselves, but the confidence and approach at the plate. You can tell when a hitter is seeing the ball well, when he's not chasing bad pitches, and when he's swinging with a plan. That's what separates a hot streak from a player who is actually developing into something serious. For a young player, confidence is everything. When you start the season hot, you walk to the plate feeling like you're going to hit the ball hard every single time. Pitchers start to approach you differently, defenses start shifting, and suddenly you're being treated like a real threat. That's part of the development process too, learning how to adjust once teams start adjusting to you. The great prospects are not just the ones who start hot, but the ones who adjust back when the league starts trying to find their weaknesses. That's the real test, and that's what the organization will be watching very closely over the next few months. Another thing that stands out about this organization is how players talk about the environment when they arrive. You always hear about preparation, routines, attention to detail, and the way veterans help younger players understand what it takes to succeed at the highest level. That kind of culture makes a huge difference because talent alone is not enough to succeed in professional baseball. Players need structure, they need guidance, and they need to learn how to handle failure, because failure is a huge part of this sport. The teams that develop players the best are usually the teams that compete for championships consistently, and that is definitely not a coincidence. What's really exciting for fans is thinking about how these young players could eventually fit into the major league roster in the future. Baseball seasons are long. Injuries happen, slumps happen, and opportunities appear when you least expect them. Sometimes a player gets called up just to fill a temporary spot and ends up staying because he performs so well that the team can't send him back down. Those stories happen every single season, and that's why hot starts in the minor leagues always get attention. You never know who might become the next important piece of the team. At the major league level, the team continues to rely on pitching and timely hitting to win games, especially while the offense is still trying to find consistency. There are moments where the lineup looks explosive, where multiple players are hitting the ball hard and scoring runs in bunches, but there are also stretches where runs are hard to come by. That's just part of baseball. Even the best teams in the league go through periods where the offense feels slow and the hits don't fall. The key is being able to win games even when the offense is not at its best, and that's exactly what good pitching allows a team to do. When you have strong starting pitching, every game feels winnable. Even if the offense only scores a couple of runs, you still feel like that might be enough. That changes the way the entire team plays. Defenders stay focused, hitters don't feel like they need to hit a home run every time they come to the plate, and the bullpen enters games with clear roles and less pressure. Everything becomes more organized when the starting rotation is doing its job, and that's why pitching is always so important over a long season. And looking at the bigger picture, you can feel that this season has a different kind of energy around it. There are expectations, there is pressure, and there is also excitement, because this team has the talent to do something special. Every series feels important, every game feels like it matters, and fans are watching very closely to see how everything develops. The season is still very young, and there's a long way to go, but the early signs are definitely interesting. What makes baseball so fascinating is that a season is a long story. There are ups and downs, hot streaks and slumps, injuries and comebacks, breakout players and veterans rediscovering their form. Over time, all these small stories connect and form the bigger picture of the season. Right now, we're just at the beginning of that story, but there are already several interesting chapters being written, both in the major leagues and in the minor leagues. And if the early performances are any indication, this is going to be a very interesting season to follow. Another factor that will be very important as the season progresses is how the team handles the long schedule and the physical demand that comes with it. Baseball is not just about talent. It is about endurance, routine, and consistency over many months. Teams that start strong don't always finish strong, and teams that struggle early can suddenly catch fire in the middle of the season. That is why maintaining health, managing the pitching staff, and keeping the lineup fresh will be just as important as any big performance in April or May. The teams that are still strong in August and September are usually the ones that manage the first half of the season the smartest way. You can also start to see certain players slowly finding their rhythm at the plate. Timing is everything for hitters, and sometimes it takes a few weeks before everything starts to click. Once hitters begin to square up the ball consistently, confidence grows and the entire lineup starts to look different. One player getting hot often leads to another player getting better pitches to hit, and suddenly rallies start happening more often. That is how an offense wakes up during the season. Not always with one big game, but with better at-bats, more contact, and more pressure on opposing pitchers inning after inning. And as all of this develops, the most exciting part for fans is watching how the team evolves over time. Early in the season, you're still learning what kind of team this is going to be. You are learning who steps up in big moments, which pitchers can be trusted in difficult situations, which hitters deliver when runners are on base, and which young players might become important pieces sooner than expected. Over the next few months, those answers will slowly appear, and that is when the real identity of the team will start to take shape. But before we move forward, don't forget to join our channel and give this video a like. Your support helps us keep delivering the latest news about the Los Angeles Dodgers. We'd love to hear your thoughts on the news, so drop a comment below. Rumors have begun to swirl around Los Angeles, casting a long and uneasy shadow over the Dodgers clubhouse. According to whispers circulating among insiders, star outfielder MOOKIE BETTS may be facing a far more serious situation than initially disclosed. What was first described as a routine setback has now reportedly been linked to a concussion with lingering complications, raising questions that stretch far beyond the current season. Sources close to the situation suggest that the organization is exercising extreme caution, possibly bracing for a prolonged absence that could extend well into the future. While no official timeline has been confirmed, speculation has intensified around the possibility that BETTS might not return to the field until 2027. Such a scenario, if proven true, would mark a stunning development for one of baseball's most dynamic and dependable talents. Inside the clubhouse, the mood is said to be a mix of concern and quiet disbelief. BETTS has long been a cornerstone of the Dodgers' identity, admired not only for his athletic brilliance, but also for his leadership and resilience. The idea of moving forward without him for such an extended period is something the team has not publicly addressed, yet it lingers heavily in the background. Medical experts outside the organization have noted that concussion-related recoveries can vary dramatically, especially when symptoms persist or worsen over time. Though it remains unclear how severe BETTS' condition truly is, the mere suggestion of a multi-year recovery has sparked debate across the league. For now, the Dodgers remain tight-lipped, offering no confirmation or denial of the growing speculation. Fans, meanwhile, are left to sift through fragments of information, hoping that the rumors prove exaggerated. But until clarity emerges, uncertainty continues to define the narrative surrounding one of the sport's brightest stars. That's all for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay up to date with exclusive news about the Los Angeles Dodgers, be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that like button. We always appreciate your comments and feedback. See you in the next video.